So I was looking at this conversation thread on Twitter, and I thought this was pretty interesting. But this guy asks Elon Musk, "Can you say how many million lines of code go into a Tesla Model 3?" And Elon's like, "The less code, the better. 1 point for adding a line of code, but 2 points for deleting a line. Bloatware is the devil." And that's exactly what I was talking about in my last video. It's like, try to always figure out how to reduce lines of code, not how to create. I mean, creating lines of code, that's the easy part. Reducing is the hard part, and reducing is the most important part too. Now, another question that they ask him is, "Do you prefer C or C++?" And Elon replies, "C, to be honest." And that's what this video is about. And if you don't know, the difference between C and C++ is object-oriented programming. There's a lot of people that don't like object-oriented programming, and I'm one of them. So in my last video, I talked about complexity, and I want to show you the amount of complexity that happens when you create any application with an object-oriented programming language. This example will be in Swift. If you don't know, Swift is a language that's used in Mac. I just wanted to show you what an object-oriented programming language generally looks like and the amount of bloat that's involved. Now, I'm not singling out Swift necessarily. They all do this, okay? So if you're doing something in C++, C#, Java, Objective-C, Swift, and so forth, they're all going to have this amount of complexity due to the fact that they're using object-oriented programming and types. So I'll get into it. Okay, so keep in mind that what we're trying to do is we're trying to create this little sidebar. But that's about it. This isn't rocket science, but if you looked at the code, you'd almost think it is rocket science, because don't try to understand how this works exactly, but look at how complicated this is. Okay, I have to inherit. Well, I created some class that I inherit a UI view controller from. I then need to, I don't know, override a few functions. It looks like, create some kind of sidebar item, which is a struct, which I also need to inherit things from. I basically need to understand all the different types and how to use them when I'm creating this code. Okay, I have to assign different unique identifiers to things. I have to, I don't know, like just use a lot of different constructs that I might not be familiar with. For example, UI collection view compositional layout, NS collection layout section. It's just a lot of stuff. If you notice, a lot of syntax, a lot of different types, NS collection layout section, just a lot of stuff. And that's just to create the actual box. Okay. Now we're going to add items to this. Now I configure some kind of data source. I don't know. I don't know anything about this code, but generally you could see I have to do this weird cell registration stuff, and I have to basically, according to how Apple engineers design this. I'm not familiar with this at all, but NS diffable data source section snapshot. Okay. All this to just put in a few items. Basically put in a few items within this box. Okay, I have to create all this stuff. And okay, I guess so this is the part where we've added items to this box. Look at this code. It's insane. Now we display it. I mean, haven't we displayed it up until now? So we're going to display it with some kind of, we're going to add another controller, UI split view controller. So I guess we're going to split it up with this other type of controller. Just very, very complicated. And if you notice, a lot of this code, it's just like a lot of different types. The UI scene session, have to know to inherit from UI responder, UI window scene delegate. Just a bunch of different elements that I'd need to if I was really coding this, I'd need to research more about these elements to know what I'm doing, right? I can't just I mean, that's why this stuff takes a long time, because because of all the different types and all the different things that are going on here. You have to research into every single one to understand how to work with them. It's not easy. It's very difficult code. Now, I made a list of all the types that this code uses, and check this out. This is just all the types that either I inherit from, or I have to send different methods, just different types, initialize different types. You'd really have to understand how each and every one of these things works. It's insane. That's the problem with object-oriented programming, is that they create a lot of these different types for you, and you must know how to use them, or else your code just won't compile. You won't see anything. And these are just class-related, just syntax, like object-oriented syntax stuff, but just the amount of types that you have to deal with, it's just insane. And this is not just about Swift. I mean, Java, C#, C++, they all do this. I mean, they all have like hundreds of types that you have to deal with when you're creating applications that are just a set of boxes. That's all what we're doing is. We're just displaying boxes. You'll see that in a lot of my older videos, but that's all this is. Do I really need to know about all these types? Which leads me to my coding philosophy, okay? This is not about how many types can I figure out, or how many things can I cram up in my brain. It's not about that. Less is more, okay? Just remember that. And I'm going to show you this same example right now in JavaScript, and you're going to see what less is all about right now. Okay, so let me show you the code on how I would go about implementing this menu. And this is the way I do it. I would just have divs. That's it. You're done. Okay. This is just basically a hierarchy of divs, right? You have the main container, the big box, and within it you have 3 more boxes, and you have a box to click on. Okay. That's it. And the thing is, you'll see here that I have some CSS. So this is to style these boxes, right? You need to style them in some way. That's how we do it in CSS. And CSS is very easy because it's maybe 20 different properties or something like that we always use for all these. So you just need to know about 20 different things, and you'll know how to style anything you want. Okay. I usually use just a subset of those 20 or whatever. There's just a certain amount of CSS that you need to know. It's very limited. And as I said, in HTML, 95% of my stuff is hierarchies of divs. Okay, I don't like to use XML components or any of that crazy stuff, where you create your own tag. I'll make videos about that in the future, but I just don't like that idea at all. I think it's a terrible idea. Everything in UI is just something that you click on. Don't make it any more difficult than that. Now, in script, okay, in actual JavaScript, you'll see that my syntax is also very limited. I don't like to use const. I don't like to use let. I don't use anything that is extra. Okay, whenever you implement something in code, just imagine that you're going to go to a desert island and you have limited space in your suitcase. You just want to bring just the necessities. Okay, if you like to code with a bunch of different syntax, and I've seen a lot of coders do that. I've worked with a lot of coders like that. Me personally, I cannot stand that. Okay, I want to see the minimum, just as little syntax as possible. That's just the way I like to code. But yeah, that's about it. Now, why am I comparing JavaScript to, let's say, a desktop programming language? Why would I compare a web programming language to a desktop programming language? Well, because there is no more desktop or web. It just doesn't exist anymore. You can create JavaScript. You can create JavaScript apps on the desktop, on the web, on phones, on wherever you want. I mean, if I wanted to create JavaScript for desktop applications, I would, let's say if I were going to do it in Swift, I would just put it inside some kind of web view. And there you go. You can use JavaScript on desktop applications. So JavaScript is everywhere now. People are using JavaScript everywhere you want. So it's not just a web thing. So some time ago, I had a guy in the comment section ask me, okay, so you don't like XML, you don't want to create components, but how would you split up your components? How would you, for example, put a UI control in a different file? And I thought this was a good question, and I'm going to answer it right now. Basically, I would create an object for this. This menu would then turn into an object, and I could then put it in a different file. But see how this container right now, I'm going to take this, this style, and we're going to put it inside the style tags. 1 second. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it as container style. And now I'm going to take this, and this is how I usually do it, but I'll have like an empty container. And here I'll have a function called, let's say, create menu. And I'm going to give that the HTML that I created for all the different items. Inside, I will run a, well, let's say I create an object, right? And then I'll run an init function. Let's define that init function. So in here, I will just go document get element by ID. So in here, I'm going to go to the container that we had here, and I'm just going to inject the HTML string that I wrote right here. Okay. So this creates this object. It puts this a function called init within the object, and it runs it right here. And then I'm going to return the object. Okay. So this create menu hasn't even been called yet. So let's just do that. Var menu is equal to create menu. So now I have the resulting object in here. Okay. So let me, instead of this show menu, I'm going to go menu.show. Okay. I don't have that function yet. I'm just going to create it right here. But I'll just copy this stuff and put it here. And is menu shown, I'm going to put it as a variable. And 1 second. And there you go. So now I don't need this. And that's it. So now my object has a show function and an init function. Okay, and everything that has to do with the menu is now inside this this function. So let's see if that works. And yeah, it's good. So it's the same exact code, except now I encapsulated it. I'm using an object-oriented programming term into an object. Okay, everything is now inside an object that I create. And so what that enables me to do, why is this on the other? Okay, it's fine. But what this enables me to do is then I can take this this function and put it in a file, let's say, called menu.js. And then I would take this style and I would put it in a file called menu.css, and I would call those two from up here. And that's it. Now you see how we created this object explicitly? You know, we defined it and we returned it here. If you wanted to be a little bit more clever, you could do it implicitly, and by that I mean you'd basically create a function, and we just notate functions that we instantiate by like a uppercase letter. So what I mean by that is right now I won't create the object. I won't return the object. I will instantiate this function. So I go new menu. Menu is the function name, right? And instead of obj, I'm just going to go this. Okay, so everywhere where there's the name obj, I'm just going to go this dot. And it's the same exact thing. See, we're going to run it right now. So this is just like a shorthand way to create an object, and it resembles object-oriented programming in the way that we use a new keyword to instantiate it. But the nice thing in JavaScript is that if you instantiate functions, so you go new function, it creates an object, and this refers to the instantiated object. Isn't that cool? Okay, and the last way I wanted to show you different syntax to achieve the same exact thing is with using class syntax. And in my personal programming style, this is completely banned. Okay, I will never do something like this, and I'll explain to you why in a bit. But so we'll have class menu. In here, we're going to have a show method. We're going to have a constructor instead of init. And in class syntax, you can't have anything outside these methods. So I'm going to have to put that here. And I don't have to explicitly call it init right now, because the constructor is called the minute you, well, not the minute, but the microsecond that you go like new menu, it's going to call the constructor and create this. And see, it works the same way. Okay, so why is class syntax banned from the way I code? Why is it completely banned? Well, there's many reasons. There's about 20 years of reasons, but the biggest one is it symbolizes complexity. Pretty much, classes in object-oriented programming is the exact opposite of my channel. Okay, to me, and this is a personal thing. Okay, like sometimes, like I don't want to, talk bad for people that actually like this stuff. To me, this is more like, kind of like how you like certain types of music, and it's just it's a personal thing. So to me, it symbolizes complexity. Okay, all the hours that I've spent throughout the years, hours that I've spent on design patterns, on inheritance, and just debugging other people's code and complexities that this stuff has created for me. There's so many, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of hours that I'll probably never get back. And all they did was waste my time. Okay, to me, object-oriented programming and types and inheritance and all that complexity is just, it's the biggest waste of time I've ever had in programming. Now, another thing is that it goes against the philosophy of everything I love about JavaScript. It basically creates, when you have, right now it's syntactic sugar, right? It doesn't really even do anything when you create, right now when I create this menu, it's going to turn into an object in JavaScript. It's not going to really turn into a type like it does in other programming languages like Java and C#. But it symbolizes something to me that I will never agree with, just philosophically. Is that even a word? But I can't, I don't like it. To me, JavaScript should always remain a typeless language. It's the biggest thing that I like about JavaScript. In JavaScript, if you know or don't know, JSON is a very, very, very small data format. Okay, there's almost nothing to it, right? You have a few primitives, a string, a number, a boolean. You have an object and you have an array. Okay, that's it. That's all the data structures and a null. But that's it. That's all the data structure that you need in JavaScript. And the entire world right now is working on JSON. They don't need, I'm talking about every single company, every single big company that you can think of in the entire world uses JSON, basically the REST protocol. Nothing is needed more than that. More than these types. Okay? They tried to use XML back in the past with SOAP. It completely got destroyed by JSON. Nobody uses XML and SOAP anymore. Everybody uses JSON, and the reason why everybody uses JSON is because it's typeless. Okay? It's simple. And the simplicity is exactly what I love about JavaScript. It is the single most important thing. And the reason why I created this channel is for simplicity and for typeless languages. So yeah, that's the reason why I will never, ever, ever use class syntax. And yeah, if I ever get a company, that calls me and interviews me about polymorphism or interfaces or any of that other object-oriented stuff, I will hang up the phone. It's a waste of my time. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and yeah, comment below. Let me know your opinions. Again, this is just my opinion. Some people like object-oriented programming, and again, it's a personal opinion, and that's all there is to it. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.